Hi, I'm Mike, and what I have for you today is my third attempt at a Star Wars The Black Series, The Mandalorian review. I've had a lot of issues recording this. It's late as it is. It is almost March of 2020-ish. This figure came out back in October of 2019, so yeah, I'm a little behind, but I guess better late than never. So buckle up, because this is a double review. We're doing the regular Mandalorian and the shiny Mandalorian. So, I'm a little nuts right now because I am tired of recording this, but I thought of a new joke, so this time around it's gonna be good. Let's just start it going. Hi there, I'm Mike, and what I have for you today is the Mandalorian. But not just the Mandalorian, but the Women-Dalorian and the Children-Dalorian too. Glad I didn't miss that joke. This is why I should just take a break, but I'm not gonna. It keeps going. I gotta get this out before Toy Fair. A minute into the review, and I haven't even talked about the figure yet. The Mandalorian. I have the figures. You're watching this because you want to know my opinion about the figures. I may not have the same opinion as you, but that's how reviews work, and that's how this thing works. These are from the TV show, The Mandalorian. These are the titular character. Well, I guess one of them is. There's not two of them in there. I don't know why they couldn't have just given him a name. They gave him a name in the show. Now, you don't learn that name until the end of the show, but it's not a spoiler. It's not like he's a Ren, or a Vizsla, or a Skywalker, or a Palpatine, or anything weird like that. His name, hold on, I have it written down here because it's such a forgettable name. His name is Din Djarin. So what? That's his name. That's cool. But it's not a secret. I don't know why they couldn't have just put that on the box. I mean, I guess he is called the Mandalorian in the show. Actually, they call him Mando a lot for short. Whatever, let's just go with it. I'm gonna go ahead and do my regular thing where I read the bio on the back of the box while you look at a picture of him. Now, I have two boxes here. One regular, one shiny. I don't have the white one. It's actually the only one I don't have the white one for. I'm fine with it, it's fine. I opened them up anyway. So I'm just gonna read this one because why not? His body is shielded by Beskar armor. His face is hidden behind a T-visored mask, and his past is wrapped in mystery. The Mandalorian is battle-worn and tight-lipped, a formidable bounty hunter in an increasingly dangerous galaxy. So here they are, out of the box. Yeah, I opened my shiny one, the carbonized one. So they've been doing this, where they'll release a figure, and then the same figure with a shiny paint scheme. Some people like it. Actually, a lot of people like it. Some people, it's fine. I bought them both because I'm neurotic that way. But I'm going to give my opinion on both. It's going to be a review for both, and it's going to be sort of a comparison for both. So starting with the review, we always start with the looks. What does he look like? Does he look like he should? Does he not look like he should? So the Mandalorian kind of lucks out here because he doesn't have to look like a person. He has to look like the Mandalorian, which is just basically a Mandalorian. He's a Mandalorian bounty hunter. That's kind of just that's his shtick. He has sort of a cowboy westerny vibe to him in the show. He's voiced by Pedro Pascal, and he's portrayed sometimes by Pedro Pascal. You might not know this. So most of the time, in true Star Wars fashion, the body of the Mandalorian is actually played by Brendan Wayne, grandson to John Wayne, which I find kind of fitting, being the grandson of a famous cowboy actor. He's being sort of a gunslinger, cowboy outlaw type person. I really like that. But I also like that Pedro Pascal is involved in this. He does portray him in the suit sometimes, but he also does the voice for him all the time. But he doesn't have to look like any of those people. He just has to look like the Mandalorian. And he does, except for only 10 minutes of the first episode. This is how he looks in the very beginning of the first episode. And then he spends the rest of the series looking frankly a lot cooler. You could say, and I get it, where you say, oh, it's a spoiler, they didn't want to spoil it, except they released full images of how he looked in his full Beskar armor a week before the show even aired. I don't understand why they couldn't have just released the figure that looked like that. That's the one everyone wants. This one, he doesn't really look like this ever, really. This is just this, but with shiny paint, and actually wrong paint, which we'll get more into later in the review. But looks-wise, this is not what he looks like. I mean, it is and it isn't. So if you're looking for looks, this is much more show accurate. This is just pretty. That's it. So you gotta pick your poison there. Do you want, how he looks in the show, or you like shiny things and you just go shiny, shiny, shiny. So because of that, I'm going to give this one a 0.75. I'm going to dock him a little bit just because he only looks like this for a little bit. It just seems fair to me. This one, I'm actually, for the looks, only going to give him a half a point. Like, yeah, he kind of looks like that, but the colors are just, they're all wrong. He never is this shiny, at least not like this. So let's move on to his accessories. The good, the bad, the ugly, what he should have come with, what he shouldn't have come with. I don't really know what he shouldn't have come with. There's a long list of things he shouldn't have come with, huh? So I'm glad they didn't do that. But let's talk about what he did come with. First of all, he has this trusty side blaster. Now, I looked all over the internet for like a good 5 minutes for the designation of this blaster, the model number, I guess. I couldn't find it. It's just his blaster. It's the Mandalorian's blaster. The blaster itself fits nicely in his hand. His finger fits in the trigger, which is, nice. It's sculpted really well. It's got a nice kind of dark silvery paint scheme, kind of similar to his Beskar helmet there. And it looks like the handle is just the plastic's natural color, which is like a brown, so it kind of works. The blaster fits equally as well into the holster as it does in his hand, so it's all good. So that moves us on to the rifle. It's an Ambin sniper rifle. Now, if this rifle looks familiar to you, it should. It's the same rifle that Boba Fett carried in the holiday special. The best Star Wars thing to ever start. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm very kidding. But if you recognize it from that, you are a true Star Wars nerd, because that's a, I guess, is it a deep cut now? I think it's kind of famous for being awful now. Anyways, the blaster's rad. The function of the blaster is pretty cool. It doubles as like a taser stun gun, and he uses that in the first episode. And then the second episode, utter disintegration. Jawas are instantly dying left and right. It's incredible. I absolutely love it. It's a great weapon. The weapon itself is sculpted with a lot of detail. It has silver painted on the front and on the middle. I think the rest of the brown in the middle is just sort of the natural color of the plastic. And then the handle or the stock is also painted. It fits well in his hands. It also fits onto his back. Now the back is tricky. When I first got it, I tried to stick it into the hole in the back and it would fall out. It's not very good there. It wasn't until later when I noticed that the strap around his chest also has a hole. And if you line them up and stick the gun using the peg in that way, it actually fits and stays quite nicely. As you can see right here, it's not falling out. It's fine. The paint on this weapon is scraped on the peg because fitting it into the peg is just a tight fit. The paint on this one comes off just being in his hand. It's very cakey, I guess. I don't really, it comes off like in chunks. So just be careful with this one. I probably should have made this one hold the rifle, not this one, but I made my choice and now I've got to kind of stick with it. But I like the look of the rifle either way. In his hands, on his back, it looks fantastic. But that's really all he came with. It's, it's not much going on there other than the two weapons. Now, he's a Mandalorian. Weapons are sort of his religion, so coming with two, I guess, is fine. I wish he'd come with a little more. Mainly, obviously, if you've seen the show, he should have come with the child, or colloquially known as Baby Yoda. I know he's not really Baby Yoda. He's the child, but he's adorable and nobody cares. He looks like Yoda. He's a baby. He's Baby Yoda. Just kind of go with it. He should have come with that, obviously, but for very obvious reasons. Even more obvious reasons, he couldn't, because that is a spoiler. I mean, granted, it's like end of episode 1 spoiler, but it is a spoiler nonetheless. And I'm glad they saved that. If I had gotten that as a toy before the figure came out, I think I would have been pretty disappointed. There are some other things he should have come with. Mainly, he should come with alternate hands. Nobody stands around with their hands cupped like they're holding something. Everyone stands with their either hands clenched in a fist or just kind of out. It's just a normal, natural way to hold your hand. Unless you think about it, and then nothing feels natural. So I would always love alternate hands with these. It kind of sucks that we don't really get that many in the Star Wars Black Series line. It would be nice to have an unhelmeted version, but again, that's like a whole thing in the show I'm not going to get into, so I get why they didn't go that route with this as well, and I'm okay with it. But another thing they should have come with, and they should come with more in the series in general, are blast effects. He should have a muzzle flash for his blaster, maybe like a cool little electricity thing for the end of this gun, the rifle, because it can be a taser. So it'd just be cool to have some more stuff like that in the line. I'm not going to dock it too much, but I'm going to dock it a little bit, partially for I do wish they came with more, and also I wish the paint didn't kind of suck on them. So I'm going to give it a 0.75 for both of these. Next, let's talk about articulation. How do they move? Can they move? Where should they move? His head has two ball joints, one at the base of the skull, one at the base of the neck. He has a wide range of movement because of it. He can turn all the way around freely. His arm moves up this far. His shoulder does give way to go up that far. It has a butterfly joint with a pretty decent range of movement. He has a single jointed elbow that moves up this far. It also has a swivel. His wrist has a swivel as well as a hinge. This wrist hinges this way. He has a torso joint that's not really hindered by the strap here, surprisingly. His leg moves forward this far. It can't move back that far. It is blocked by his sculpted butt. He has an upper thigh swivel, a double jointed knee, an ankle hinge, as well as a rocker. With this being Mando's widest stance, with both his feet flat on the ground. So it's 2020. Well, these came out in 2019, but it's currently 2020, and the articulation is pretty standard for today. The head is on a double ball socket, one at the base of the neck, one at the shoulders. You get a lot of great movement there, allowing him to even look down the scope of his blaster rifle. His torso moves fantastically, a lot of movement there as well, a lot of personality you can get in there. He poses really well. Even if they're not that dynamic, they're still interesting poses. His shoulders have that cool butterfly joint that not many figures have, but more and more figures are coming with, which allows him to hold his rifle in both hands. His leg articulation is not hindered by the holster on the belt, which is actually very rare for the Black Series. Most of the time, the holster is attached to the leg somehow, and it severely hinders how that leg can move. This one does not, and that's a welcome change of pace. So I'm actually gonna give both of these the full point because they have a wide range of movement. Pretty much anything that you could really want him to do, he can, and he looks cool doing it. So, the big bad boy, the paint, sculpt, and detail. Let's take a deep dive into this and go from head to toe, starting with the helmet as a comparison side by side. Now in this show, he's wearing a Beskar helmet. Beskar is a special metal that Mandalorians make their armor out of. The darker color on this one is more show accurate, although I will say the carbonized one is shinier, and because of the shininess, you can see a lot more detail in the sculpt. The ridges, the vents, the weathering, all of that stuff looks better on the carbonized one, where it's really hard to make out on the darker color of the more show accurate one. Next we have the chest and arms. The chest is a typical Mandalorian fashion. It's a shirt with armor plating on it. The cuirass has a nice kind of earth tone to it. It's a lot shinier on this one, but for the most part, they're the same color. The shoulder on his right-hand side, I really like. It actually looks like it's cobbled together from like Shore Trooper armor. That's what it looks like to me. I might be wrong. That's actually the first piece of armor he upgrades from, so it's probably his weakest piece. That's how you do it in video games. That's how I do it in video games. That's classic MMO tactics right there. The interesting thing to me about his torso is that the shirt on the normal release I thought was wrong. It's got this weird kind of beige-ish color, whereas on here it's more uniform, and I thought for sure that's how it was in the show. But I went back and watched it, and it's not. It actually is this color, and this one is wrong. It's just wrong. If any of these colors are wrong, I am colorblind, but I actually asked my wife to name all the colors, and she did. So I'm just going off memory here because I can't see shit. His arms are very similar. They're just basically a shirt with armor over it, which is, you know, kind of classic bounty hunter, Mandalorian type thing. The wrist doesn't have a lot of paint on it, but does have some paint. It's got a lot of molded nicks and details into it. Honestly, you can spend a long time just looking at all the details on his chest and his arms. The armor is fantastic. The shirt underneath has molded wrinkles and, you know, and folds in it, and that's always nice. The differences here aren't as drastic, but the shirt underneath does have that monotone kind of gold color, which again is inaccurate. The carbonized Mandalorian here looks like an alternate character in a video game. When both of you choose the same character, one of you has to be a completely different color so you can tell each other apart. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. So moving down to the belt and the strap, I actually really love this. It's weirdly my favorite part of the whole figure. The belt has just so many details. Buttons and rivets and buckles. They're all painted and sculpted with precision. He's got canisters all over his belt and bandolier strap thing. I'm pretty sure those are the canisters that are ammo for his rifle here, and that's just kind of a cool touch. Again, the holster, like I said earlier, is sculpted well. The gun fits in it. It doesn't hinder his legs. So there's a lot going on here and a lot that's really good. There's not a lot that's unpainted. Everything's really, really nice. Below that, the legs are probably his most boring part, but they're fine. Like, you've got the same kind of thing where it's pants with armor chunks over it. The armor, like the chest and the arms, are sort of cobbled together, hodgepodge. I do like the kind of gold down here, the gold band on his leg, whereas on here it's just just sort of a dark brown. On this one, the color is, again, different on the armor. It's more of a silver than this kind of tan color. So again, it's not accurate, but it is shiny. Again, his leg has armor on it. I'm pretty sure it's more shore trooper armor with more ammo on there. It just looks really good. The most boring part here, though, are his boots. Even on the shiny carbonized version, the boots are just super boring. I don't get what they were doing. I guess it's accurate. It's just not a lot going on down there in the shoe department. And lastly, the cape. I kind of didn't cover the cape because I was saving it for last because it is easily the worst part of the figure. The cape is the same on both. It's just a little shinier on the carbonized one than it is on the non-carbonized. It is molded hard plastic, and that was Hasbro's mistake. This is a classic example of where soft goods would just be better. They've done it before, like on the Mimban Stormtrooper. I don't understand why they couldn't do it here. The biggest problem I have with the molded plastic cape is that it never hangs right when you have the gun on it. The gun either gets popped off because of the cape, or the gun displaces the cape and it just looks weird on his shoulder. There's a molded kind of hood on it, and I wish that we could put that up for different options, but we can't because it's molded, which again sucks. I actually am not universally for soft goods, but this is just one of those instances where it was clear it should have been. And you can tell because there are people out there that make custom soft goods cloaks for their Mandalorians or capes or whatever you want to call it. And some of them even do wire in it so you can pose it. And they all look way better than what we have here. The cape is a huge letdown. So because of the cape, I'm going to give this a 0.75. But if it weren't for the cape, this otherwise would be a fantastic paint job, but the cape really does bring it down. So lastly, we have want and availability. Did I want this? And the answer was always yes. Of course I want more Mandalorians in my Black Series. I don't care that I didn't know anything about this character when Force Friday happened. I knew that this was going to be a popular figure, even if the show sucked. Mandalorians sell. In no universe that we live in where no one wanted this figure. This was never destined to be a Constable Zuvio or a Jyn Erso. So yeah, I wanted it, and I made sure that I found one of each on Force Friday. These were the only two that I cared about getting. So of course the want was there. The want was never not going to be there for this figure, for both of them. But the availability, oof. I have not seen many of the Force Friday waves on pegs. I have seen them, but the Mandalorian is always missing. Other than on Force Friday, I don't think I've ever seen this guy in stores at all. And I never saw a white box one. It's the only white box one I didn't get. You can order this one online from places, and it's a pre-order. I think they're coming out in the next month or May or something like that. This one has been restocked at Target because it is a Target exclusive, but I'm pretty sure they're done with it. So unfortunately, right now, if you want this one, you might be stuck with those secondary market prices and those jerks that bought a bunch of them off the shelves to do exactly this to you. And you should be mad at them. Normally I would say don't buy it, but if you really want it, I think you might be stuck at this point. This one though, there's still hope to get non-secondary if you're willing to wait, or if you're lucky in a store. I've seen people stumble across them randomly. So despite wanting it, the availability has just tanked this. I'm gonna give it a half point because I definitely wanted it, but it was tough to find. So the final score on this is a little bit different. This one I'm giving a 3.75 out of 5. This one I'm getting a 3.5 out of 5. I know what you might be thinking. You might have seen my top 10 figures of 2019. If you haven't seen it, the list is somewhere around here. But this was actually my second favorite figure of the entire year. So why did I give it such a mediocre score? Well, I'm allowed to critique things and point out flaws with them, but still love them. I love this figure. I love it enough to make it number 2 of my top 10 figures of the entire year. But it's got issues. It's got problems. There were things that I wish that were better. And it's the mark of a truly mature man-child to point out when his plastic figures have problems, but he still loves them anyway. So if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, or somehow just haven't decided you wanted this by now and you're just now making up your mind from this video, cool. I'd highly recommend having them on your shelf if you can find them. It might be too much of a pain. I really hope they sort of re-release this or release a newer version in the future with the full Beskar armor. This looks fantastic on the shelf with the rest of my Mandalorian cast that's out there. He looks great with my other Mandalorians. I just love the way these guys look. They really are shelf-worthy. So that's it for my Mandalorian review. Let me know down in the downstairs area, what'd you think of this? What'd you think of my review? Did you get this? Were you waiting for my review to buy it for some reason? I like to read and respond to all of those, so please head down there and just leave me a fun comment. It just makes my day, and it gives me something to do during lunch when I'm at work. I'd also like to take a moment to thank these people for supporting me on my Patreon at a Black Series level or higher. Thanks, guys. It really does mean a lot to me that you do this. If you want to get your name on here, you can head over to my Patreon down in the downstairs area. If Patreon's not your thing, you don't really like the idea of it, that's fine. I don't get any content behind it, but there are still a couple things you can do down in the downstairs area that really help me out, such as liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the bell. All that stuff goes a long way to helping me out. And thanks so much for doing it. And with that, that's all I got. Thanks for getting this far, and I'll see you later. Bye.